on. From the Packers' perspective, I've seen enough with Jordan Love. Get the deal done and pay what it takes, because he's that dude. The second half of the season, he was one of the 3 best quarterbacks in football, and watching it wasn't artificial. It wasn't just schemed up, although Matt LaFleur is a great play caller. He was making high degree of difficulty throws in clutch situations. I think he has all of the tools to be one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the NFL, and I don't think that's hyperbolic.
What quarterback situation do you feel the best about or the worst about in that division, not just for this year, but over the next 5 years?
I mean, without a doubt, Tom, it's got to be Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers. I mean, you look at him really the last 10 games of the year, 70% completion, 2,100 passing yards, 18 touchdowns. The biggest thing, only 1 interception. He took care of the football.
Yeah, top 3 or 4 offense in the conference next year, and this is an offense that I would bet on making a lot of problems for defenses.
When Aaron Rodgers was traded to the New York Jets last season, no one could have expected that his former team of 18 seasons would be the one winning a playoff game. The 2023 Packers were talented, but naturally very unproven as the youngest team in the NFL. A 2-5 start seemed to be the switch that flipped so suddenly for Green Bay was none other than their quarterback, Jordan Love. And with him now locked up for the foreseeable future, the Green Bay Packers are set up to dominate the NFL. Jordan Love played like a top 5 quarterback over the back half of the season. It's funny how much things can change when a team gets good play from under center. All of a sudden, their morale shifted from directionless to young and hungry. And ultimately, they were able to secure a wildcard appearance against the Dallas Cowboys. In a game that they were heavily unfavored, Love and the Pack stunned a home Dallas crowd into silence, taking a 27-7 halftime lead. Of course, Green Bay fell just short of the San Francisco 49ers the following week, but the fact that they were in that position at all after how their season started is insane. All that goes to say is that now we know exactly who the Packers are going to be in 2024, and they do too. Love balled out, throwing for over 4,100 yards and 32 touchdowns to just 11 interceptions, and it's hard to imagine that Love will be going anywhere but up this season. That's exactly why Matt LaFleur and Packers GM Brian Gutekunst signed him to a 4-year, $220 million contract this offseason, making him one of the highest paid players in NFL history after just 1 year of starting. And yes, his $55 million annual salary being $10 million more than what either Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes are currently making may seem like an overpay, but I think it really just goes to show how crazy the salary cap increases are each season. In 4 years, this Love contract may look like a great deal when the league's top quarterbacks are making $70 million a year. Regardless of the price, this contract is an absolute win for the Packers, who have now secured their 3rd star quarterback in a row following Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. Keep in mind, he still has just played 1 season, but if Love pans out like everyone thinks he will, we could be looking at 3 starting quarterbacks over a 40-year span for the Packers, which is truly unprecedented. Now that we've talked about the Love deal, let's take a closer look at what this offense is going to be in 2024. The position group that really jumps off the page for Green Bay is their wide receivers, which consist of Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, and Jaden Reed as the starters, and Dontavion Wicks leading a very talented group of backups. This group is going to be one of the most dynamic receiving units in football this season, not because of an incredible top-end talent like CeeDee Lamb or Tyreek Hill, but because of how great all 4 of these guys can be together. Unlike when you have 1 star, if you have 4 talented wideouts, defenses can't just use double teams to solve their problems. With the impeccable accuracy Jordan Love displayed late last season, the Packers should be able to stretch defenses in all directions, making them cover every blade of grass. The interesting thing about this depth chart, though, is that it's not at all what I think it's going to look like by the end of the season. The real wide receiver 1 appears to be Jaden Reed, who led the team last year with 800 receiving yards and 8 touchdowns as a rookie. Although Reed has operated primarily out of the slot thus far in his career, top wideouts playing in the slot is becoming more and more common, with guys like Cooper Kupp and Amon-Ra St. Brown among the best in the league. Christian Watson still hasn't developed into the star he showed so many flashes of as a rookie, but is still a very solid playmaker whose athleticism leaves a lot of room for growth in the future. In fairness, Watson has missed a lot of time with injury, which may improve after he spent time with a hamstring specialist this offseason. However, in the 9 games he did play, he never put together any outings that really blew you away. Romeo Doubs put together a solid sophomore campaign with just under 700 yards and 8 touchdowns of his own, but I think his average athleticism is going to hold him back as the other wideouts in this room take greater and greater target shares. The real diamond in the rough of this offense, though, is Dontavion Wicks.
But watching the Packers this offseason, Dontavion Wicks, if I had to pick one of these guys who I think is going to really take a big leap forward this year and maybe emerge as a number one and really surprise people with how good he is, that guy has incredible route running ability at his size. He's got physicality, he's got hands, he can make difficult catches in traffic, and he can get yards after the catch. He is going to be something special, but the whole group is really talented.
At the start of his rookie season, Wicks didn't see the field too much, but he carved out a bigger role as the season progressed. Dontavion doesn't have the fastest straight line speed. Testing in with one graphic that really shows this is first downs per route run versus receiving yards per game, where Wicks ranks top 15 in the league despite placing below average in yards per game among all wide receivers with 250 routes run. He most certainly was not given enough opportunity last season, but when he was on the field, the technicality of his route running and evasiveness in the open field was far beyond his years. He has the ability to win from any part of the field, seeing success on both his 150 snaps from the slot and 290 from out wide, which is part of what makes him so enticing. If Wicks were to get double his limited targets from last year in 2024, he would project for over 1,300 yards and 8 touchdowns. That's obviously easier said than done, especially considering the other mouths Jordan Love has to feed, but the prospect of it is hard to look past. Of course, the wideouts aren't the only pass catchers looking to show out this season for the Packers. Rookie tight ends Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft both had pretty successful inaugural seasons, each posting above 350 yards on just over 30 receptions apiece, almost having identical production. Musgrave has the exciting upside of impressive athleticism to go along with his huge 6'6", 253-pound frame. His footwork and route running ability at his size suggests big things could be on the way, and his development as a sophomore will be one of the most interesting aspects to watch out for in 2024. The Packers also brought in Josh Jacobs, who will replace Aaron Jones as the workhorse running back and as a pass-catching threat from the backfield. Jacobs did have a down year last year, which may have made his acquisition much easier for the Packers, but I believe it was due to the Raiders' struggles overall as an offense last season. It honestly reminds me of when Najee Harris was running straight into a brick wall in his first couple of seasons in Pittsburgh, and the wear and tear caused Jacobs to miss the last 4 games of Vegas this season with a quad injury. While he may not be as explosive as he was in his breakout 2022 year, he will be more than serviceable as the engine of the Packers' run game this season. The offense is only half the battle though, and the defense was where Green Bay showed their age a little more. Defensive coordinator Joe Barry was fired shortly after a season where the Packers struggled mightily against the run, plagued by missed tackles throughout their divisional championship matchup against the 49ers. The Packers were very strong throughout the year in coverage though, grading out only behind the Niners according to PFF. The defense is now run by former Boston College head coach Jeff Hafley, who is aided with a lot of talent to work with in his first year. Lockdown CB1 Jair Alexander is under contract through 2026 and will be sure to give opposing wideouts a tough time with his notoriously physical coverage, and Eric Stokes turned into a nice piece during his rookie season as well. The Packers also added former Giants standout safety Xavier McKinney over the offseason, whose ball hawking abilities will help generate more turnovers for Green Bay this season. And although the run game was an issue last year, they actually have some nice pieces on the D-line too, bringing back Preston Smith, Kenny Clark, and Rashawn Gary on the end. One of the ways Hafley has already stated that he's going to be maximizing this defensive front in 2024 is by shifting to a base 4-3 alignment, allowing more big men up front to create a heavier emphasis on attacking the line of scrimmage for tackles for loss and sacks. Previously, in Joe Barry's defense, the focus was more on squeezing the pocket and thrusting the linebackers to make difficult tackles on handoffs, but the new scheme is following suit of some of the best pass rushers in the league, including the 49ers, Jets, Texans. Linebacker was maybe the weakest position group for Green Bay last season, so running a scheme that plays fewer linebackers and more of the linemen seems like a logical choice given their personnel. If the Packers can put it all together again this season, with even some improvement on both sides of the ball, they will be a team that's feared across the NFL. The only problem is that the NFC North will soon be one of the hardest divisions in football if it's not already, with their most difficult opponent being the Detroit Lions, who just lost in the NFC Championship game. Not to mention, the Bears could be good this season too, with Caleb Williams at quarterback, an array of weapons, and a stalwart defense led by Matt Eberflus. With that being said, Green Bay already proved that they can beat the Lions when they split the series last season, and having knocked off the Chiefs in 2023 as well, no team is truly unbeatable for them. To make matters better, I think the Packers have an advantageous schedule this year. They play against the AFC South, and the only teams in that division that are going to really test the Packers are the Texans and maybe the Colts, depending on how Anthony Richardson performs. There are certainly some difficult games coming up, including 2 against the Lions, home against the Texans, Niners, and Dolphins, and on the road against the Rams and the Eagles to open the season. However, they also have a lot of games against teams that don't stand a real chance, like the Titans, Jaguars, Saints, Cardinals, and the 2 divisional games against the Vikings. I think a realistic prediction for their record for the 2024 season is 11-6, and their ceiling is as high as anyone's. It also helps that this team is so young. I believe that unless Jordan Love were to face a major injury that forced him to miss significant time during the season, their floor isn't much lower than 11-6. Based on how young and inexperienced they are, it only makes sense that they'll continue to get better as they get more and more reps on the field. Regression is always possible, but the most likely outcome is that this unit continues to grow and improve together. On top of having an easier schedule, the NFC is just weaker in general than the AFC currently. The only other true powerhouse teams in the NFC are the Lions, 49ers, and Eagles, whereas the AFC has many real contenders, and Patrick Mahomes. The path to a high seed in the NFC is not as difficult as it has been in years past, or as difficult as it is in the AFC right now. If the Packers are able to win some of their big matchups against NFC powerhouses, they can solidify a top spot and essentially control their own destiny. It's hard not to be over the moon about this Packers roster. They simply have everything going for them. I haven't even had time to talk about how good Matt LaFleur is as a head coach and offensive mind. He helped Rodgers produce back-to-back MVP seasons, although many will argue that was more to do with the quarterback's stubbornness, and has clearly done a good job getting Love up to speed. He's a master at drawing up open receivers for his quarterback and confusing defenses as much as possible with pre-snap motion and unpredictable run schemes. This team is so well-rounded, and regardless of whether or not it's a shootout or a defensive battle that gets the job done in the end, the Green Bay Packers are going to dominate the NFL in 2024. Do you agree with our assessment that the Green Bay Packers are in for a big year? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below.